All right, welcome back to Scrap Cooking. I'm Harriet Clooney, and this is the show where we show you how to be zero waste with your food and not throwing out flavor and saving a couple pennies here and there while we're doing it. So today's episode is going to be a tuna salad that we are going to use the pickled dill stems that we made, as well as some pickled mustard seeds that we made. We are also going to use some of the tops of the fennel that a lot of people throw out, as well as some lovely bread that we'll make the sandwich with, and then we will save the bread ends for another episode on how to make breadcrumbs 2 ways. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is open this little baby can of tuna. And we are going to press out this liquid. Now, if you were in the habit of making chowder, you could save this liquid and add that to it. Put it in a tiny container in the freezer. Add it to a fish stock. There we go. So, we've got our tuna. I'm going to put it in this bowl. It's nice and dry because we are going to be adding in other things to it that are wet, because if we don't strain it out, then it's going to be super wet and make your sandwich soggy. And we don't want that. So we've got our tuna. Next, what we're going to do, I'm going to cut up a cucumber. Just going to use half of it and then save the other half for a salad. So I'm going to cut it into really small, tiny little pieces. So I'm going to cut it into 4. And then I'm going to cut it into 3. And then we're going to cut it into small little cubes. There we go. It's your tuna salad, so you can put whatever you want in it. There's all sorts of different things to put in a tuna salad. But I happen to like cucumber in mine. And we have some of these dill fronds. We're going to cut up some of them. Oh, these ones were already cut out. We're going to cut them up just a little bit more. Go, and with the back of my knife, just gonna throw them in there. That, using the back of my knife, keeps my knife blade from getting warped. All right, now I've got a little tiny shallot, so we're actually only gonna use half of it. So I'm gonna just keep that for a salad or something else. I'm gonna cut off that little tip. I'm gonna keep it. Nice clean shallot skin, so I'm going to keep it and put it in a little stock pile I've got going, a little liter container in my freezer. So for this guy, I'm going to go make a couple incisions sort of flush with the onion. So I made 3 there, and then I'm going to turn it towards myself. And I'm going to make a couple, moving towards myself, so that we've got these little batons of shallot, but they're still attached, so they're easier to work with. And then we're going to cut it into small little pieces. Now, if you don't like onion, you don't have to add onion, or if you don't have any shallot, you can use green onion or just a white onion or a red onion, that's fine too. And then this little nub is gonna go in my little stockpile. So we're gonna add this guy in, just like that. Now I've got this beautiful fennel bulb, and I am going to cut these stalks off. And this fennel bulb I'll use either for a salad, shaved thin, or I'll cut it into wedges and I'll roast it, or I'll put it into a tomato sauce or chowder or all sorts of things. I love fennel. It's one of my favorite vegetables, but you also have to like anise. So if you don't like licorice, you may not like it. So just like the fennel, and by fennel, I mean dill, we're gonna take off these nice little fronds, and fennel and dill are related. And again, if you've got any sort of gross spits, we're gonna take them off. But they've got lots of flavor, just like the dill fronds. They're underutilized in my opinion. But they're nice and pretty, just like a dill. And they give just a little bit of a different flavor. A little bit more anisey, more fennel-y. So we're going to do that. And got one little gross bit in the middle there. All right, so I've got my fennel fronds. So I'm gonna cut them just like I did the dill. And just like the dill, they don't last all that long once they're cut. So they're best used right away, or you could throw them in the oven and dehydrate them, or you could freeze them as well. But I'm gonna add a nice little chunk of them in there, and then the rest of it I'm actually just gonna add to my dill. I've got some corn chowder in the freezer that I'm gonna add that to when I make my lunch in a couple days. So the little stalk end is kind of like a celery. So I just took the tip off because it's a bit dehydrated and oxidized. So that is also gonna go in my stalk. And I'm gonna do that to all of these guys. I'm gonna take those guys off. Still gonna use them, but I'm gonna just take the very tip of that off. So I kind of make a couple different piles. Make the tiny little fennel stem sticks, and then the big fat guys, the little sticks. And we're going to chop up the little sticks and put them in my salad. So we're gonna chop these guys pretty small, but they've got a nice crunch, sort of similar to celery. It's not as watery as celery, but it's still got that nice satisfying crunch to it. So we're gonna add that in. And I'm gonna cut one of these guys up as well. So I am gonna cut sort of 1/3 off so that it's sort of flat, kind of like a moon, and put that on that side. And then it's got a little hollow center, so then I'm gonna cut right down the middle of that guy. So you're kind of cutting it in 3. And then from here, I'm gonna make it small. Cut that into 3, and this one in half. I've got little tiny sticks, and then we're gonna cut those into small pieces. So for this tuna salad, I'm replacing the celery entirely with the fennel. Now with these guys, you can also shave them really thin, like you could cut them, but you have to go against the grain because it's quite fibrous, and like you wouldn't want to eat it like a carrot. The strings would get stuck, and it wouldn't be good watching. But but you could cut these guys like that, very thinly, and you could throw that in your salad. And they can just go right in the stock, your little stock pile as well. And they're good to cut up. Just use it like celery. Like I prefer to use it instead of celery sticks in a lot of my mirepoix. So if I have, which is celery, onions, carrots. So I use the fennel stems instead of the celery in most of my cooking. So I really enjoy it. All right, so back to our salad. So we are going to add our lovely pickled mustard seeds. So they're really nice just sort of on their own, like as a garnish on something. But they're also nice. They give a little pop of mustard flavor. Now I also have a little bit of mustard, so I'm gonna add about a teaspoon in. And I've got some mayonnaise, classic. So I'm gonna put about 2 tablespoons in. And then we have my favorite pickled dill stems. So I'm gonna add probably about a couple tablespoons, maybe about a tablespoon and a half. You could use a strainer, but I'm also gonna add a bit of the pickling liquid in place of some lemon. And I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of olive oil. Gonna do a good chef pinch of salt and a tiny pinch of pepper. And now we're gonna mix it all together. However, even though this is a bit different than your normal tuna salad, there's still no competing with funeral sandwiches. I love funeral sandwiches. And this may be a fancy version, but I'll take another funeral sandwich over anything any day. So we are going to give that a taste and see where we're at seasoning wise. All sorts of stuff going on there. Really got the mustard seed pops. And the crunch of the fennel is really nice. You get a little bit of the vinegar, a bit tangy, which I like, because once you add the bread, you want to be able to taste it through the bread. So it does need just another pinch of salt. But I think after that, I think we are good to go. That is awesome. Now we're gonna cut some bread. Got a nice loaf of sourdough. So especially breads like these where they're round, they're not quite harder to slice even slices. So we're gonna cut off the little crust end. And then we'll make nice, nice thick pieces. Now this little crust end, I am going to put in the fridge. I like fridging it because it's gonna be easier for when we make breadcrumbs. And there's some pieces of it that we're gonna put in the oven overnight for a different kind of breadcrumb, but this one I'm just gonna put in the fridge to kind of like stales it, which we want, but it doesn't make it rigid, which we don't want. So that piece I'm gonna put in a bowl, completely uncovered, just like that, in the fridge. And then in a couple days, we'll make some panko breadcrumbs, which will be fun. So now I've got my bread and I've got a frying pan. I'm just gonna warm up some bread because I don't have a toaster here. So we're just gonna keep my pan on high. If you're on an electric, you probably wanna be medium high. And I've got some olive oil. You can use butter if you prefer. And I'm just gonna toast my bread in this pan. I find to make really awesome bread in a pan, you need more oil or fat than you think, because you want it to coat the bread, but then you want it to get golden brown. So we want it to be hot, but when I add anything to the pan, I will usually tilt it away from me so that it's not gonna splash back at me. So there we go. So then I can, and then I'm gonna do the same with this smaller piece. These little bread pieces I'm actually just gonna add to my bowl. So you gotta keep your eye on the bread because bread, it's like a sponge. So it's gonna absorb the oil. So you wanna make sure that it's got enough so that the pan's not dry. Oh, there we go. All right. So the pan is almost empty of oil, and we've got some nice looking toasty bread, but that also means we're gonna have to add a bit more oil to the pan to make sure that the other side gets the same treatment. Yum. There we go. There, you can see if you don't have enough oil, it kind of gets patchy, which you don't want. So, but I am going to turn it down. I love that sound. There we go. One. 8. And 2. There we have some nicely pan-fried bread. And now we are going to add, so I don't need to put any more mayonnaise on it because I pan-fried it, so it's coated in oil. So we don't need any more, so that'll be good. But I am gonna add a decent amount of my sandwich mix. Say it makes enough to make 2 good sized sandwiches. And since I have it handy, do a little garnish, some dill, beautiful farm lettuce. If you wanted, you could put some slices of cucumber or some other pickles. I'm a pickle monster, so I often put lots of pickles. There we go. I'm gonna cut this guy. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. There, I got a beautiful sandwich. And I can't wait to sink my teeth into it. Yeah, it's really good. Well, that's lunch for me. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you for another episode. And we'll check you out next time.